Picture this. It's a random Tuesday evening. You're lying on the couch, phone in hand, thumb moving on autopilot through video after video after video. Nothing is actually interesting. You know nothing is actually interesting, and yet you keep scrolling anyway, because the alternative, just sitting there with your own thoughts, feels somehow unbearable. That feeling has a name: boredom. Now, remove the phone, remove the couch, remove the television, the music, the endless backlog of shows you're supposedly behind on. Remove all of it and go back about 80,000 years. You're sitting by a fire in a small band of maybe 20 people. The hunting is done for the day. The sun won't set for another hour. There is, quite literally, nothing scheduled. So here's the question this video exists to answer. Did ancient humans actually get bored? Or is boredom itself some strange modern invention, a side effect of having too much comfort and not enough real problems? Stick around, because the answer says something surprising about what boredom is actually for. Let's start with a theory that sounds almost too convenient: the original affluent society. In the 1960s, an anthropologist named Marshall Salins looked at data on hunter-gatherer societies and made a genuinely startling claim. Groups like the Hadza in Tanzania or the Juahansi in the Kalahari often spent only around 15 to 20 hours a week actually gathering food. That's it, less than half of a standard modern work week just to keep everyone fed. The rest of the time, talking, resting, making tools, telling stories, doing, by modern standards, remarkably little. If that's true, ancient humans should have been drowning in free time, practically professional relaxers. So, problem solved, right? Ancient life was basically an extended vacation with occasional spear-related danger. Not so fast, because free time and empty time are not the same thing at all. Here's what modern anthropologists studying these same communities actually noticed: that so-called free time was almost never spent doing nothing. People were grooming each other, repairing tools, teaching children, arguing, gossiping, negotiating who owed who what. Constant small tasks, constant social maintenance, constant low-level mental engagement with the people 2 feet away from you. In other words, their downtime looked a lot less like staring at a ceiling and a lot more like an endless, unskippable group project. And that difference matters enormously, because boredom, the specific unpleasant feeling of being understimulated, seems to require a very particular set of conditions. You need enough safety to not be constantly scanning for danger. You need enough isolation to not be constantly socially engaged, and, critically, nothing meaningful demanding your attention right now. For most of human history, that exact combination was surprisingly rare. Which brings us to the second, much darker layer of this question: vigilance. An ancient human sitting quietly by a fire wasn't just relaxing, their senses were still working. Every rustle in the grass, every distant sound that might be a predator or might be nothing. Being understimulated while a lion could theoretically be nearby is a very different mental state than being understimulated on your sofa. Some researchers argue this constant low-grade alertness may have crowded out the specific mental space boredom needs to fully take hold. You can't fully zone out when some ancient part of your brain is still quietly counting exits. So maybe ancient humans experienced something adjacent to boredom, but rarely the pure, itchy, mind-numbing version we complain about today. Now, here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Some researchers think boredom isn't a modern glitch at all. They think it's an ancient, evolved signal, and a surprisingly useful one. The theory goes like this: boredom evolved specifically to push you towards something new. If you're doing the exact same low-value task for too long, gathering from an already picked-over bush, walking the same predictable trail, your brain starts generating discomfort on purpose. That discomfort is a nudge. Stop doing this. Go explore. Go find something more useful. In a world where survival depended on discovering new food sources, new territory, and new information, an internal "get moving, this is a waste of time" alarm would have been genuinely valuable. Under this theory, boredom isn't a modern flaw at all. It's a very old motivational tool, just one now firing constantly at a smartphone screen instead of a berry bush. Which raises a slightly uncomfortable point. If ancient humans did feel something like boredom, what did they actually do about it? They couldn't exactly summon endless new content on demand. So instead, they seem to have built entire cultural systems specifically to fill exactly this gap. Storytelling around the fire wasn't just entertainment, it was communal, endlessly variable, and endlessly retellable with slight changes each time. Music, rhythm, and simple games appear remarkably early and remarkably universally across cultures. Even tool-making, endlessly refining a spear point, reshaping a scraper, seemed to double as something to do with idle hands and an idle mind. In a very real sense, human culture itself may be, in part, an incredibly elaborate boredom management system. So let's actually answer the question. Did ancient humans get bored? Almost certainly, yes, at least sometimes. The neurological wiring for it appears ancient, shared, and deeply built in. But the experience of it was probably shaped very differently than yours. Less empty scrolling on a couch, more background hum beneath a life that was almost always doing something, with someone, for a reason. Modern boredom might actually be a strange, concentrated version of something ancient, stripped of the social tasks, the constant small demands, and the low hum of vigilance that used to keep it in check. We didn't invent boredom, we just somehow made it lonelier and a lot more comfortable to sit inside of. So the next time you're mindlessly scrolling, unable to settle on anything, remember, some very old part of your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. It's aiming that ancient "go find something better" signal at a feed that was specifically engineered to never let it win. Would you have handled boredom better around an ancient fire, or would you have been the one everyone was quietly annoyed with? Let me know in the comments.